This week in AI felt less like app updates and more like an industrial report, from trillion-level bets on chips and data centers, to new lawsuits over training data, to China drafting rules for human-like AI companions. I'm Aiden, and this is AI Weekly Digest.
And I'm Aria. Over the next few minutes, we'll connect the dots. Why Nvidia is suddenly licensing its rivals instead of just crushing them, why creators keep calling training on their work the original sin of AI, and how tiny, efficient models are starting to punch in the heavyweight class. Aiden.
We'll move from money and infrastructure to rules and backlash, and finish with the models that may reshape what open source means in 2026. Early in the week, regulators in the US quietly cleared a major data center deal between Nvidia and Intel. On paper, it's just antitrust approval. In practice, it's a green light for two of the biggest chip players to cooperate on the very factories of AI compute.
At almost the same time, Reuters reminded everyone that the OpenAI story is no longer just about models. SoftBank is racing to deliver a $22.5 billion funding commitment to OpenAI by year-end. That is not startup money. That is small country infrastructure spending. Aiden.
And Nvidia is not only building its own stack. It signed a non-exclusive licensing deal with Groq for Groq's ultra-fast inference technology. Groq's founder and senior team are set to join Nvidia, while Groq keeps operating independently in the cloud. Translation: Nvidia would rather integrate the fastest challenger than fight it alone.
Around that deal, reports surfaced claiming Nvidia could even acquire Groq outright for around $20 billion. Those rumors are still unconfirmed, but the direction is clear. Inference is becoming its own arms race, and Nvidia wants to be on every side of it.
Meanwhile, Washington and Beijing are still fighting over the supply chain itself. In the US, lawmakers pushed the Pentagon to add DeepSeek and Xiaomi to a list of firms allegedly helping the Chinese military. Separately, the administration delayed new China chip tariffs out to 2027, buying time for both industry and diplomacy.
In Asia, the money is flowing in the opposite direction. Japan is preparing a roughly $6.3 billion bet on physical AI, hardware, robotics, embodied systems. And Hyundai's Boston Dynamics is about to debut a new generation of Atlas humanoid robots at CES, designed less as a viral YouTube stunt and more as future factory labor.
Put together, Segment 1 tells a simple story. Compute is no longer just CapEx and tech company slides. It's turning into a strategic asset class, where governments, cloud providers, and chip startups are all trying to own a slice of the AI factory floor.
Whenever something becomes infrastructure, the next chapter is always rules and backlash. This week, that backlash showed up in courts and in draft regulations.
In the United States, a New York Times reporter filed a lawsuit against Google, xAI, and OpenAI over how chatbots were trained on her work. She is not alone. Another group of authors led by John Carreyrou also moved against several major AI companies. The core question is blunt. Is training on my content free, or is it something you have to license and pay for?
That same tension is captured in a single image that kept circulating this week. AI's original sin, the Great Book Heist, with a robotic hand grabbing a golden apple labeled copyrighted works above Silicon Valley HQ. It is not just thumbnail drama. It's how creators increasingly frame the first decade of large-scale scraping.
Security agencies see another risk. South Korea charged 10 people over an alleged leak of chip technology to China's CXMT, while US lawmakers pushed to formally label more Chinese AI firms as military-linked. The AI race is now fully entangled with export controls, espionage cases, and national security lists.
And then there is China's own response. Beijing published draft rules for AI systems that imitate human personalities or offer emotional interaction. Services that act like virtual partners, friends, or companions would face tighter oversight and explicit content rules. In other words, if your AI wants to act like a person, the regulator wants a closer look.
So in Segment 2, the message is clear. The legal perimeter around AI is hardening from both sides, creators asking for payment and attribution, and governments demanding safety, security, and control over how human AI is allowed to become.
While the lawyers argue, the models keep moving. On the open source side, DeepSeek-V3 re-entered the spotlight. Fresh benchmark tables show this mixture of experts model beating or matching giants like Qwen 2.5, 72 billion, Llama 3.1-405B, Claude 3.5-Sonnet, and even GPT-4o on a mix of English, code, math, and Chinese exams. All while only activating about 37 billion parameters per token.
The message from those benchmarks is simple. Efficiency is becoming as important as raw size. A smartly routed MOE like DeepSeek-V3 can behave like a 600 billion parameter giant while running closer to a mid-sized model.
DeepSeek is not alone. JEPA released GLM-4.7, an open-source model pitched as OpenBeats Claude, on several benchmarks. And another research highlight, VL-JEPA, showed that a 1.6 billion parameter vision language model can match or approach the performance of much larger 72 billion parameter systems.
On the tool side, Qwen open-sourced an image layering model for Photoshop-style editing, essentially an AI assistant for complex, non-destructive edits. Google shipped GemmaScope 2, a new interpretability tool that lets researchers peek inside their model's reasoning paths. And Nvidia released Nitro-Gen, a universal game AI system with 500 million parameters aimed at smarter non-player characters.
Outside the lab, platform dynamics are shifting too. One of the more subtle stories this week, Anti-Gravity Flash, a high-speed AI service, made its temporary rate limits permanent. It's a reminder that even in the age of infinite compute marketing, every platform eventually has to throttle usage and decide who gets priority.
And in the background, more everyday experiments continue. Waymo testing Gemini as an in-car assistant for its robotaxis, and new data center think pieces arguing that AI campuses are becoming as politically sensitive as airports or power plants.
Segment 3 shows the other side of the coin. While courts and regulators struggle to catch up, model designers quietly push towards smaller, faster, more capable systems, and embed them into tools that creatives and platforms are already using today.
Let's finish with 3 short takeaways. First, compute is now clearly geopolitical infrastructure. From Nvidia Intel and Nvidia Groq to SoftBank's multi-billion check for OpenAI and Japan's $6 billion plus bet on physical AI, the money is moving into long-lived hardware, not just clever demos.
Second, the original sin of AI, training on other people's work, is finally being fought in court and in parliaments. Lawsuits from reporters and authors, plus China's draft rules on human-like AI, show that consent, attribution, and emotional safety are becoming non-negotiable topics.
Third, the open source frontier is evolving fast. DeepSeek-V3, GLM-4.7, VL-JEPA, and Nitro-Gen all point to a near future where smaller expert models, clever architectures, and specialized tools matter more than one single giant model winning every benchmark.
If you're an investor, a builder, or just AI curious, this week leaves you with one big question.
Who should decide how close AI is allowed to get to us, especially when it looks like a person, talks like a person, and runs on infrastructure paid for like a power grid?
You've been watching AI Weekly Digest. Tell us in the comments. Should human-like AI companions and assistants be regulated more like apps, more like utilities, or more like media that needs strict editorial rules?
And as always, links to the full stories and research are in the description. See you next week.